Cab drivers have a reason to celebrate today. The Port Authority examining infrastructural challenges in the city. And a local pastor calling for greater respect for those in the labor movement.
The Bahamas Tonight Northern Edition starts now.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, I'm Natalia Hall. Thank you so much for tuning in. An historic day for cab drivers on Grand Bahama as an agreement was signed providing cab drivers with a bigger share of the cruise business to this island. For many years now, taxi drivers have complained about not being able to get a fair share of the economic pie, especially at the Freeport harbor. But this morning, during a press conference in the office of the Prime Minister here in Freeport, an agreement was signed between taxi drivers and Bahamas Paradise Cruise Lines. The agreement between taxi drivers and Bahamas Paradise Cruise Lines that operate the Grand Celebration and the MV Grand Classica will allow taxi drivers to transport overnight passengers and same-day transfers once they do not prearrange a tour with any tour operator. The Minister of State for Grand Bahama, the Honorable Kwesi Thompson, says this move may not resolve all of the issues, but it represents a significant step forward for taxi drivers.
Taxi Union President, Mr. Jones, that as a result of this agreement, taxis are receiving an additional estimated $10,000 a week or $40,000 a month worth of new business at the Freeport Harbor. And while we are pleased, we are not finished. We still have a whole lot more work to do.
President of the Grand Bahama Taxi Union, David Jones, says it has been a long road for taxi drivers.
But today we must say it is a step in the right direction. We want the taxi drivers to know we will continue to make sure their benefits are better for them. We will continue to make sure that we improve our product. And as we get an increase in business, I'm asking the taxi drivers to increase in service as well.
The president of the Grand Bahama Taxi Union says all taxi drivers also have a role to play, which is to provide exceptional service for all passengers.
We will be taking these persons to Williamstown, down to West End, because now the taxi drivers has first hand doing those things. And that has been a challenge for us for years. So we believe once we are able to do that, we will then, you will see some movement around the island, which will put monies into other small vendors' pocket.
Captain and CEO of Bahamas Paradise Cruise Line, O'Neill Kosher, say they are committed to the island of Grand Bahama.
We are very happy to be part of this program that is now going to be such a positive aspect on Grand Bahama Island. More business means more people are happy and so forth.
It was brought to our attention that taxis needed help. It was very natural for us to step up because we are so in sync and in so much in tune with what happens in Freeport that we are not removed from the process or whatever happens here. So we felt it was the right thing to do, not only from a business perspective, but also from a humanitarian perspective, because we don't want our partners to be unhappy.
Now, during that press conference this morning, the Minister of State for Grand Bahama, the Honorable Kwesi Thompson, announced that negotiations are ongoing as it relates to the pending sale of the Grand Lucine Resort. He says he's sure that the sale is of high interest for all taxi drivers, Bahamas Paradise Cruise Lines, and all within the tourism industry.
We agree with the developer, Paul Wynn, that although these negotiations are, and they continue to be very complex, we believe that we are at the end of this process. We look forward to the renovations and full opening of the Grand Lucine very shortly. We are also very encouraged by the negotiations with the Grand Palm Acquisitions Limited and the former GIN project, which we expect to finalize a heads of agreement very soon, which will allow for this development to fully proceed.
In other news, the Grand Bahama Port Authority working to enhance the image of the city of Freeport. But as Shashina Roll-Farquharson tells us, the port is having some challenges with this initiative.
Grand Bahama Port Authority Executive Rupert Hayward says that there are many infrastructural issues on Grand Bahama. But he notes that while they are aware of these derelict buildings, there are many reasons why it takes time to tackle these types of issues.
Perhaps one of the major issues is the fact that these city bylaws that we have, which govern the building code and how the Port Authority can address derelict buildings, unkempt buildings, etc., is actually quite a it's quite a high benchmark for demolition. And that benchmark is the building has to be structurally unsound.
But he says they can't demolish a building just because the community may believe it may be an eyesore.
We cannot simply demolish a building even if the roof is not on that building. We actually have to have a structural engineering report saying that the building is structurally unsound. It's a very, very high benchmark. So even though you drive around the city and you see buildings that you think should be knocked down, we probably have a structural report saying that actually we cannot do so. But we are continuing to monitor those buildings. We know which ones they are. There's about 50 on our list, and we will continue to monitor that issue.
He says another great challenge is the legal process, which can also be very lengthy.
Just to give you an idea of how long that can take, Silver Sands, which you might have seen knocked down the other day, we started that process in 2004. It's now 2018. That is 14 years. Now, I don't think that's good enough. So we need to address that issue as well, and that is not because we haven't been working hard at it, I can assure you. Carla, our Chief Legal Counsel here, worked extremely hard and is in the courts on a regular basis, but you know, it is a complicated and often very lengthy process.
He says their aim is to also tackle the derelict issue when it comes to vehicles on Grand Bahama. Shashina Roll-Farquharson, ZNS Network News.
A gruesome accident in West Grand Bahama this past Labor Day, leaving a man dead. The accident taking place on Bayshore Road in 8 Mile Rock. Onlookers filled the street on Bayshore Road in Bartlett Hill, 8 Mile Rock. They carefully watched as police conducted their initial investigation into the tragic accident on Labor Day. When our news team arrived on the scene, the area was already cordoned off, and a gray rental vehicle could be seen in nearby bushes next to a utility pole. Officer in charge of traffic, Superintendent Jeremy Henfield, says police received the phone call at 3:35 p.m.
Police would have responded on arrival. We would have met a silver Honda Fit collided into a utility pole. A lone driver was in the vehicle. That person would have succumbed to their injuries here at the scene. We are just in the preliminary stages of this investigation. And so that is as much as we can give you at this time.
The officer in charge of traffic could not confirm if speed was a factor in the traffic fatality, but he says he's once again taking this opportunity to urge motorists to drive with due care and attention.
Like I keep saying, if you want to get from point A to point B, then we need to leave in sufficient time. You can get to where you're going in sufficient time. The place is not going to move where you're going to. You just need to take your time and drive carefully just to get there.
The gruesome video of the deceased went viral across the country within minutes on social media and WhatsApp. Superintendent Henfield is asking persons to be more considerate and sensitive to situations like these.
I know a lot of people like to be the first to send out, but then please let us be careful and let us be respectful that these persons have family members, you know, they are husbands, and you know, they have kids and mothers and fathers and all that, and so we need to be a little bit more sensitive to these kind of things, you know. Just be careful, because one day it could be your family that someone sends out a picture to, and then you may, you know, just kind of understand or feel what that family is going through. So, you know, we actually just refrain from taking these type of photos and then just sending them out viral. You know, it's very disrespectful.
This is Grand Bahama's 8th traffic fatality for the year. Now, unconfirmed reports say the traffic fatality victim is Samuel Knowles of 8 Mile Rock. An apparent drowning here on Grand Bahama over the holiday weekend. Reports of that police were called to the Fortune Bay area, Blackblads Beach, on Saturday afternoon, where a man began experiencing difficulties while swimming in the canal. He was seen floating in the water. Efforts were made to retrieve the body, but efforts were prevented by strong current. The body was eventually retrieved from the waters by boaters. The victim is believed to be 44-year-old Michael Wilson, also known as Junser of Arden Forest. Police are investigating. Stay with us. There's more news right after this break.